welcome back to another SuperCoach video with me, JD. You're joining me for the round 5 review. A poor week for me for all accounts, and apologies for this video coming a little bit later than usual. Was away in Melbourne for the weekend visiting family with the kids and all that. So yeah, first day back today, not at work. Got a chance to record this during the day. So I've also got to apologize for that. Not only is this late, but my setup does not work during the daytime at all. So with like the sun kind of adjusting its light, the camera and stuff's going to be weird. Not that I presume many people watch this for my face anyway. It'd be weird if you did. Come for the SuperCoach, not for the face. So channel slogan, of course. So yeah, bad week. Oh, like just look at it, it's terrible. I think I won 19 of 20 league matchups over the last 2 weeks, and I lost all 10 this week, so that's pretty nice. Just inside the top 20k. And look, like this could have been better. Could have been much better, but I missed out on both the rookie tons, which is pretty bad. Like I fielded Rochelle over Hayes. Just given that Hayes in the second ruck role hadn't popped off like we saw him do on the weekend. Yeah, outside of like having to kick a bunch of goals in that first game, and then I didn't trade in O'Driscoll, which was also pretty bad, and played McDonald, so that sucked. Yeah, I thought I got baited into the original team sheet with him named on ball. I thought they were finally going to give him that chance, and it just didn't eventuate. So yeah, lots of bad play all around. I mean, O'Driscoll, I think I'm like particularly unlucky on, because those trades just don't normally work out for SuperCoach, where you pick up a rookie after their price rise, and it's like pretty unlikely they go back-to-back 100s. In fact, like I have a hard time remembering other rookies that have gone back-to-back 100s. So, I mean, it just really sucks because he's already made 70k. He's got a super low break-even with 2 100s in the cycle. For those that picked him up at 160k, he's easily going to get up to probably 360, make you 200k. Very nice cash grab, and it probably helped you bank 30, 40k for this week's trades as well. So yeah, and you got 100 on the field most likely as well, instead of like a 50 or 60. So, I mean, for me, yeah, if I had O'Driscoll's 100 and whatever it was over McDonald's score, I had Hayes 100 over Rochelle, then like it's still not great, but at least I'm like high 2100s at the moment, and I probably keep in touch with the top 10k. But yeah, losing extra 100 points, pretty bad. But I mean, I held both Cripps and Hinge. And like in hindsight, I think holding Cripps is probably right, but I needed to move on someone for O'Driscoll or pre-trade in Bruce. And I didn't do either of those, so I'm going to have to use a trade boost and kind of play a little bit of catch up this week, which isn't great. So yeah, poor week from me. I think like it's probably easy to blame that on being away. Didn't spend as much time thinking about SuperCoach, which maybe would have led me to do some of these things. But yeah, I mean, like, not only did O'Driscoll score really well, he was named, like, he was their 22nd player, and they had Tucker sitting on the outside who they love, and he was like the person he replaced. There was a world where he dropped to average score and doesn't play this week, and it's just a dud trade. But unfortunately, we don't live in that world, and I'm got like mega punished by not doing that, which is unusual. Like all the normal conservative stuff that usually works out in SuperCoach and usually is what we should be aiming for is just not really coming off this year. And it's hard to tell if that's just because this year's a weird one out of the bag, or like, you know, I mean, it's like there's always exceptions to the rules, and maybe just a lot of them are hitting at once this year. And so it's a really hard one to know, should I be reacting to this and playing more aggressively, or should I kind of stay the course and continue to play a little bit more passively, which is what the tried and true SuperCoach method is. And it's tricky because if you're this far behind, you kind of want to say differentiate a little bit to the top end, just so you've got a way to catch up. So I kind of want them to continue to play aggressive, trade really hard, maybe run out and get some picks that aren't as good. And I kind of play the usual way and catch up through that. I think that's probably going to be the path for me at the moment. But I probably do need to turn up the aggression on the trades and the tactics just a touch, which we'll go through in a bit when I look at kind of some of the trade options. And I think this is a really interesting week for trades. One of the things that we will cover is, of course, Grundy, who people are looking at trading at, whether there's merit to that. I know there are other underperforming primos people looking at as well, which we can cover a little bit in the trade section. But yeah, what are the topics we're going to cover? I guess it'll be DPP, who's relevant. The names I hear are like Parker, Zorko. I think that's probably it. Oh, and Pendlebury as well. Yeah, whether you should trade boost this week, what do your trades look like? Including, yeah, like, is Grundy an option to trade out? And then because I didn't do like a quick first take or first reaction just straight after last game, I got to ask Twitter for some questions. So I'll go through the Twitter Q&A as well and see what's on people's minds rather than me trying to guess what the hot topics are. I guess like trade-in targets we'll go through in the trades part as well. It's going to be a little bit all over the place. In terms of like team review, I don't think there's much to review here. So everyone down back was fine. Short had a bad game. You're not going to trade him out or do anything. Like, you just hold on to him, whatever. Whitfield scored poor in SuperCoach, but did well in fantasy. It was like 101 from him in that format. So getting more touches, more opportunities there, just needs to string it together into a SuperCoach game. And hopefully GWS starts to turn the corner, and that'll help Whitfield as well. I definitely wouldn't be trading him at this point, especially given how much he's already dropped in price. So, yep, I would be holding Whitfield. And then Hinge was one that I was considering trading on, but didn't do it just because the reason why he missed was he failed a test on the Friday, and that's why I didn't get a game. I'm a little bit worried that he doesn't get named this week and he continues to be out. Which, yeah, like that would definitely not be ideal. Not at all. But camera, what are you doing? All right, please don't move around. Thank you. Yeah, so like it wouldn't be ideal at all. But he's been useful as a loophole. I guess the problem is he's not useful this week as a loophole just because they play, I think, the first Saturday game. So I'm not going to be able to loophole either of these two with him. I guess I could loophole Whitfield if he does poorly, but I don't know. I've got more faith in Whitfield than that. Mid primos were all fine. Cripps is a test this week. He's got to pass a couple of things. Some people were worried about him flying back to WA. WA is his home state, so I'd imagine he wants to get back. And they also take a charter flight, so he'll have opportunity to walk up and down the plane. He'll have room, these types of things. So I think it more just comes down to whether or not he passes his tests, which Cripps himself is positive on. That's a good sign. So I think it is just going to be the 1 week, and holding is probably the right move. And it's interesting because if he does play this week and plays well, I think a lot of people that traded him out will look to get him back in the next week or two, which is like pretty interesting and could interrupt your upgrade cadence elsewhere, depending on what's going on with your team. Raul is the one that people will talk about a lot. I mean, his break even is 103. He's someone that you just have to trade out this week. He could beat it, but I just don't think it's going to happen, especially against the Lions. I wouldn't be betting on that. And given that a lot of people want to start upgrading this week, he's the obvious one to get out. Berry was okay. His break even's still low. He's someone that may end up needing to be traded out next week, depending on how he goes and what he scores. I mean, like, what's he projected at? 88, and that puts him at a 58. I mean, yeah, if he scored at like a high 80s, I think he hold. But anyway, he's one that could potentially go next week to help with facilitate upgrades. And then what else worth talking about? So Horn Francis, this is a poor score. I think he's fine to trade out this week. It's unders on what he could be. But yeah, just given that poor scores in his rolling average for the next couple of weeks, if you are looking to do upgrades this week, then Horn Francis is one that you can trade out. If you've got the luxury of holding him, then that is by all means fine as well. My mid bench pretty bad. At least Ward's kind of going to kickstart his cash gen a little bit with the 65, and they continue to play him in the midfield even after the lower CBA game last week. So that's positive signs for anyone that held Ward. I think you find to continue to hold him, even though they've got a couple of tough matchups in the coming weeks. I mean, must say props to the Hawks that they are blooding so much youth and still getting wins on the board. Like, very jealous as a depressed Essendon fan with what Sam Mitchell's doing. When Essendon was looking for a new coach, he was actually top of my list for coaches that I wanted. I don't think that ever would have happened. I don't think Hawks would have let him go. I don't think Mitchell would have wanted to have gone. But yeah, that's very disappointing. Stevens is a tough one because Swans are just not underperforming. So he's got a super low break even still. You just need him to come back into your team to make a bit more money. I just don't know when that's going to happen. I don't think it's happening this week. So when we go through trades, we're looking at like sidewaysing one of these to Bruce. Is it McDonald, who's scoring poorly but is getting games that I'd trade out? Or, at least he's making some cash. Or is it someone like Stevens who will make a lot of money as soon as he comes back in? We just need him to come back in. That's, hard call. Rucks, I mean, Grundy scored poorly. And to be honest, looking at his stats, this is much poorer than what I would have expected. He was still, I think, tied second for contested possessions for Collingwood. I think he was second for clearances as well. Honestly, I didn't think he played as badly as what he got scored, but the score is there, and people are worried about him. We spoke about it on the Fantasy Take TV pod for a lengthy discussion. My thoughts on this is like in a vacuum, trading Grundy for SuperCoach is pretty much always bad. The only thing that changes that up for some situations and some teams is that we've got Bruce and potentially Hayes coming in this week and next week, who just look like they're going to make so much cash that I think you want to find some way to get them into your side, unless you already have Gorn and Grundy, in which case you probably just want one, not both. I don't think you move on Gorn and Grundy. But for those that have different ruck structures like mine, or maybe you have English or whatever, I think you want to get both of those, and like maybe moving Grundy on, if it lets you do some cool upgrades this week, is an okay option. It's just not going to be my default, and I'll show you what it enables me to do in a minute, and you can kind of see that it's really not that much better, especially given that Grundy's next three, I think he averages like his last games against each of them was over 140, so they're good matchups for him. And Oscar McInerney, who he just has his worst matchup, so yeah. I mean, like the only other thing with Collingwood as well is they're playing a lot of talls at the moment. I'm not sure that's like working particularly well for them. I'm not sure what their ins and outs of this look like, because I know they've got Myercheck coming back, which probably pushes out one of the talls. I'm guessing like Cameron or Cox or something like that, which might help Grundy. But yeah, the short answer is probably don't trade him unless it enables you to do something really cool. But I am looking at moving on potentially Wits next week. And so if I thought Wits was more likely to be a keeper than Grundy, I would have no problems moving on Grundy this week. But I just think Grundy's more likely to be a keeper than Wits, so I'm not going to do that. The forward premiums were all pretty good. The mid prices were all good. Rochelle over Hayes as a start decision was pretty bad. But everything else there kind of keeps ticking along. Martin continued to be good. I mean, you look at this and like there's a lot of the stuff that didn't do well is quite common with other teams. So like a lot of people have short. Whitfield's not as common, but still like pretty popular. A lot of people would have held Cripps, I think. A lot of people had Grundy. So like, why did my team do so badly? And really, it's like this Horn Francis 39 over like a 100 from a rookie. Rochelle 49 over 100 from a rookie. And then I missed all of the big scores from Gorn had another big one. Stewart had a big game. Brody had another good score. Missing some other like really obvious ones that people have that I just don't have. I'm like Heaney's another one. Like I just miss out on all these big scores this week, and it just I think most people at least had one of the big ton rookies, and then some of these other big scores. I just missed all of them, which is why this week's looked so bad. But yeah. All right. So I guess like popular question would be like, should you trade Boost this week? And I think the answer is yes, as long as it enables you to do something good. So when we're thinking about trades this week, we want to be starting our upgrade cadence is ideal. So starting to do one up, one down. For most people, that means that the third trade, if they're going to use it, is either because they're doing something funky with Grundy or because they're going to sideways in a rookie for Bruce. So you won't necessarily make a bunch of cash out of it, but you get Bruce in who should make a lot of cash, and I think that's fine. From what Leo and Cameron said already, it looks like Bruce is playing this week, by the way. So I'm not sure if Flynn plays as well, but I think even if both are playing, then that's fine to pick up. Bruce had him in the preseason and was like the number 2 ruck and still scored well. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. Okay, so trade targets this week is worth talking about before we go into things as well. I think if you're looking down back, the value option is probably still Sicily at 500k. He looked like basically the best defender on the weekend. It was huge. If you're looking for a premium, then I still like Stewart. I think he's just durable and a good scorer. So that hasn't changed. Not a lot of people are needing options down there, especially given that people are trying to free up slots to get like a day cost into a D6. Maybe if you're a Bowie owner and you're going to move him on this week, but I'd be looking elsewhere. I don't think any of those are really that good an option. And maybe Bowie's your way of getting day cost down the back. So yeah. In the midfield, I think the value option really is Petrarca here, although you could look still at Tom Green or Baslenka as even like two more speculative but cheaper options. I think like the problem with Green is he plays for GWS, and I'll keep saying that. I'm not sure how Toby Green coming back affects that side, and just given they haven't been winning, they probably still need to play around with something. I mean, I think Green's been their best midfielder, so I can't imagine he loses out because of that. But yeah, something needs to change. And then with Baslenka, so yeah, amazing. High time on ground, high CBAs, is all around the ground. He's been a bit of a butcher, so he's the number one average in fantasy at like 135, and I'm not sure what he is in SuperCoach, but he's got like quite a negative ratio. What I do worry about is if that negative ratio kind of stays the same, but then he drops away in terms of like total possessions. This could hurt a fair bit, but his break even's 45. So if you wanted to go on him, this would be the week. I could see him kind of being around that M8 mark. It's possible. The only other thing to consider is that Lockie Hunter's now out for an unknown period of time with some like personal issues. Baz is one of the ones that they could push out to the wing. Then that means they can play like Bont and Libba back in the midfield more, which, I mean, I don't know what they want to do. They gave Baz nearly the most CBAs this week, and he's quite a complete midfielder. It seems like it'd be good for his development to stay in there. But yeah, he's, I guess, probably the most interesting of the cheaper options in the midfield, although I like Tom Green as well. I wouldn't want to be stacking too many of these options, though. Where's Tom Green? I mean, Tom Green's 547. So of the two, and 110 break even. So I'd go Baslenka over Green. At Green's price, I think you're paying at 30, 40k more and getting one of the premium midfielders instead. So the obvious one this week would be Petrarca, who I'm sure a lot of people are looking at. 575k, break even of 132, which is still quite high. You could potentially wait another week on him. But they do play Richmond this week, who are giving up the biggest scores to midfielders. So Petrarca could, potentially break the 132. But, he could beat that 132 break even this week. I wouldn't worry about trading him in next week and missing out a little bit on that money. So he's looking like a very strong option in the midfield. I think the other ones you consider is like Miller, by the way, like he's still got a 132 break even. You could wait another week on him if you don't have him. Steele is in form, but he's 640k. I probably look for a value option rather than getting him in. But of the really top end ones, like I like him as an option. And then Oliver is another one people would be considering, so 622 as well. But he's got a 174 break even this week, so I think you can wait another week on him pretty safely, and hopefully get him just under 600. And then the only other one worth talking about is probably Brayshaw, who after a couple of poor games has dropped down to 605, 123 break even. It's like against Carlton, the one thing to watch out with Freo is that they've had a lot of players either train away from the main group or go into protocols because the Waffle team, I think, has got a bad case of COVID running through it. So it's a little bit wait and see. I'm somewhat worried that, maybe Brayshaw doesn't become a contact and be out or anything like that, but they just have so few players available, much like what we've seen with West Coast, that Freo drops off a fair bit, which would be quite detrimental to Brayshaw on the short term. So, I mean, at 605k, I probably do like him better than Petrarca. The 30k can be a big difference. I don't think I'd be able to reach Brayshaw, but I can get Petrarca. So, yeah, I think Petrarca is probably the best of those fallen primos. But I wouldn't talk people out of any of the others. I mean, even players like Walsh have started to come good, if I can spell his name properly. 610, only lost 26k, but his break evens, 124, may not lose any more. Plays Freo this week. You haven't seen all the Carlton midfield together, but that's another one that you could definitely look at. So yeah, lots of good options in the midfield, and I think for a lot of teams trading out Rao, that's where you probably should be heading. In the rucks, I guess like Gone is somewhat bottomed out. He went back up 22k last week. So 640k. I think he's got a pretty low break even of 80, and he's fixtures pretty good in terms of rucks he faces. So, like, honestly, trading in Gorn this week would normally be an all right thing. I guess like the issue is that Bruce and Hayes, or Sam Hayes, coming in the next couple of weeks, I want to have spots free for them to generate cash, and that's kind of one of the ways I think I can make up ground on some of the others that are stuck in the set and forget ruck combo. So yeah, I wouldn't be bringing him in, even though he's looks like just on paper a good trading option this week. And then in the forward line, like lots of options here. I think the of the cheaper options, I like Degoe for 80k, still leading Collingwood CBAs. Some concern that with Elliott going down that he might get moved forward a little bit more and his role would suffer. Didn't seem to be the case on the weekend. They've got Essendon this week and a pretty soft fixture in the coming weeks after that. So Essendon, West Coast, Richmond. We talked about how Richmond give up a lot of points to mid. Essendon give up a lot of points to mid. So this is a nice fixture for Degoe over the coming weeks. At 480k, very good price as well. And, you know, I think players like Heaney, a little bit too far gone. So if someone like Degoe, I just prefer it as an option at a price point. Otherwise, I think the other option to consider trading in as forward this week is English. So this is top price. I mean, he's already gone up 90k from his starting price, 572k, comparable in price to Petrarca. I guess like the difference between the two is English, you're pretty sure is going to be in the top 2 or 3 forwards for the year at this point. Petrarca might be around M8 to 10. He could be as high as like M3 or 4, I'd say. But yeah, English might just be a slightly better target just because you know that he's going to be top of his line. They also have a pretty, I mean, Dogs and Demons both have good fixtures coming up. So yeah, and English's break evens, 97. Petrarca's is what did I say, 130 something. So you could potentially wait one more week and Petrarca won't go up in price, but English is kind of now or never. So this would be the other option in the forward line. Oh, I should mention DPP at this point. I haven't talked about any DPP options. So Zorko is one that people will look at, 520k defender. I just think there's better options at the same price. His Achilles or his ankle or whatever's going on. I know it's his calf, is it? And it's like the scar tissue is like causing him to run and limp weird. That's not good, man. I don't think I'd be going there. Also, Kadeen Coleman, who many of us were keen on the preseason, is like he's off the injury list now, so probably returning through, I'm guessing, the VFL before coming back into the side, but one that could take away kick-ins and some of the distribution from Zorko. So yeah, I mean, maybe if Rich goes down, Zorko becomes a really obvious must-have, but I would pass on this for now. Pendlebury's the other one. I probably like Pendlebury even less than Zorko, to be honest. He was playing more midfield again the last 2 weeks, but yeah, the injury history and concerns. Also don't really need defenders, so I just think at 535k, there's other options I'd rather have. And then probably the one that people are talking about a little bit in the forward line is Luke Parker, 483k. I'd rather have Degoe at the same price, if I'm being honest. They're definitely trying to transition him and some of the other experienced mids out of there to get their youth through, which has been working for them. Luke Parker's still getting around 50, 60% CBAs, which isn't bad. He's just going to be a bit up and down and inconsistent. What was it, like a 39 last week and then a 123 this week? He's got a break even of 118, so it is one that you could wait another week on anyway if you really wanted, if you're interested in Luke Parker. All right, so I think that's a value option and a premium option for each of the lines we've covered. So then my trades this week, where did I start with? So firstly, I played around with like what happens if we trade Grundy? Can we actually make something happen? And I think for me, the other obvious trade outs are Horn Francis and Rao, and this gives me a fair bit of money. So the mid option that I liked, which I've mentioned already, was Petrarca, and then I think Bruce in the rucks is quite good. So let's get Bruce. Yeah, because I mean, if you then like I've got 502k here, so yeah, so it'd be Degoe for me would be the last option. And so the benefits of this trade is like if you look at what's happening, Grundy's effectively being sideways, and then there's a 1 up, 1 down here as well. But with the sideways, I'm getting a worse rookie off field and putting Bruce in their place. So if you just like compare these, so Grundy versus Petrarca, they probably average similar, like say 105. Maybe Petrarca's, no, that's probably not fair. Grundy's probably a 105 to 110. Petrarca's probably like 115. So I get points each week out of that. Degoe versus Rao, I mean, Degoe's going to be a 105-ish, 100 to 105 average. Rao's averaging what, like 70 at the moment for SuperCoach. It's like plus 30 points a week. And then Bruce versus Horn Francis. Bruce goes at I don't know, 85, 90. Horn Francis goes at 70, 75. That's another like 15, 20 points. So with these trades, yes, trading Grundy is weird, but just because of the shuffle and the structure change and the players it enables to get on field, I end up scoring a lot more points doing this type of trade. And so that's where I see like there's some validity in trading out Grundy. If it gets Bruce on field and enables some good things to happen with your rest of your structure, then like by all means, I don't mind people playing around with this whatsoever. I think the downsides of this are that, I mean, for me, it's weird having Wits and Bruce, and then I'm going to get the other Hayes in next week. This seems like a really shaky ruck line where things could go wrong for me quite quickly. But the upside is a lot of cash generation, and then looking to trade some of these primo rucks back in. Maybe Grundy doesn't come back on my side, but if Wits isn't a keeper, I could look at Darcy or Gawn if Gawn does have a couple of other bad games at some point in the future. But yeah, it's just a lot can go wrong with this, which is the one concern. I don't really want to have to sideways back into the rucks at some point in the future if, I don't know, Bruce gets injured, whatever it may be. So I don't hate these trades. And if trading Grundy enables two really good upgrades, so say it was like Bruce, Petrarca, and English that I was getting out of this, I'd be very interested. Degoe is just a step down, so I'm not sure I love it as much. But yeah, this is one trade line. I guess the thing that, what's the best way for just go cancel? One thing we should talk about is who are the other downgrade options this week that aren't Bruce. And really the big one is Roses. So 130k forward for Gold Coast, back-to-back 70s. I mean, small forward in Gold Coast, bit worrying, but given that he's got two good scores banked already, it's a nice little cash generation play. I think the problem for me and others is if I'm bringing in Bruce and Roses this week, it really stuffs around with the forward line and makes me have to play poor rookies. For those that don't have Durden, I don't think this is going to be a problem, but let me show you what I mean with my trades. So back to Rowell out, Horn Francis out, and then this time we'll correct either McDonald or Stevens. Let's just say Stevens for now, but I think it works either way. And then we need to make room for Roses. So move Martin out. We need to now make room for Bruce there. And then I need to put Rochelle once again to make room for Roses. All right. So then Roses. We've got Bruce. And then we've got 595k to upgrade to someone. And so of the options I've spoken about, it's probably like apparent that the ones I'd be looking at are Petrarca or English. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm like trading another one in here. And I think English is the option. I think English is the option I want to go. So say I do these, this is probably the other line I'm looking at here. And this is just like really awkward. So Martin and Dacos is my last two midfielders are okay. Hinge and McCartan at D6 isn't ideal. Like I want to get Dacos there sooner rather than later, but I don't think I can do much about that this week. And then the awkward part is the forward line this week because of playing Hayes and Dixon in these two spots doesn't feel particularly good. Hayes, so the one positive thing about this is Hayes is playing GWS on Friday, which haven't been particularly good. So there's like, yeah, I don't know. I think that it could work out okay. And then Dixon is playing the rookie Sam Hayes for Port. So I think he should score pretty well there. And then next week, West Coast have Richmond, who I think like Dixon could score okay on. And then St Kilda, I mean, Hayes may not play next week, but if he does, he's got Sam Hayes from Port. And then next week, Durden's got North Melbourne, so he could have a good score there as well. So I don't know. I think this is probably okay for a couple of weeks. I probably need to get somewhat fortunate, and then I can trade back out of it. But yeah, I don't love the forward rookies in this setup. My trades next week for this type of plan would be, Wits out. So we're trading Wits out at 500k. Going to get him up to probably Clary Oliver next week. And bring Bruce onto the field, get Hayes in at the ruck, and that's how I'm going to get Bruce on to get his points, get the cash generation from both of those, and then continue upgrading my side. And then I'll look to hopefully do another upgrade with the team as well. I don't know if that's going to be bringing in Degoe or I don't know, someone underpriced. But yeah, like that'll be the trades next week. It'd probably be like Wits, Berry, and a rookie or something. Two premiums and a rook. Well, two premiums and Hayes, which I need to work out like money wise if that's possible. But because yeah, I think like I mean if it's Berry, Rochelle, and Wits, that's maybe it's about 1.2 mil. It's an awkward number to get because like Oliver's 590k is really not that cheap. So yeah, I just need to play around with that and figure out what is exactly going to happen. I guess like the other option is that Hayes may not end up being a must-have if he plays really poorly again because he was gassed very quickly, and like doesn't get another game. Then he doesn't become a R3. I just have Bruce there for cash generation in the meantime, and it is what it is. The other option is like if you're not a Bruce believer for whatever reason, I think there's like other cool stuff you could do as well. Like I mean, I didn't even need to boost right if I'm not getting them out, so I could just go Rao, Horn Francis, and then get Roses in. And 598k, so I mean I'll probably still get English in, I think would be the play for me. And then this is like the same trades as what I did, but I just haven't sideways in Bruce and saved my boost. But I think I'm gonna boost and sideways in Bruce for the record. What does this do? So the problem with this is like Rochelle is on the field, which I don't like. And then I'll get Hayes on the field here, which is probably fine. I mean, Rochelle versus Dixon is effectively the difference between the two. And like, I don't know, they're probably similar over the next couple of weeks with Dixon's soft opponent. The one nice thing about this is with still having Stevens here, they play second last game with Hawk, so I could loophole Rochelle with Stevens and Ward like that. So I think that's probably like the main trade considerations. I think I've gone through the targets, the types of trades I'd look at, the downgrade options. Boosting is okay as long as you're getting, I mean, yeah, and then don't trade Grundy unless you're getting 2 sick upgrades out of it. So, I mean, if trading Grundy down to Bruce lets you trade both Horn Francis and Horn Francis and Rao to premiums, go for it. I think that's a really good trade. And that type of aggressive trade seems to be paying off this year. So, yeah, go for it. Captain, vice captain, quickly. So, like, last week it was obvious. I'm still averaging over 150 for my captain. This week you literally just swap it. So, McRae, Saturday night against the Crows. He's got a good record against the Crows, good record at Mars Stadium. That seems pretty easy. And then Neil against Gold Coast, who haven't been performing that well. I mean, yeah, I think that's pretty simple. Pretty simple. If you have Steele against his old side, you could vice captain him into like McRae or Neil if you wanted to as well. I think that's reasonable. But yeah, like it's another week where I don't think you're gonna get much points of differentiation out of it. You probably just keep it simple, stupid. Hinge and the Crows play the Dogs this week. I'm probably more likely to field McCartan against the Hawks, just given how much I kicked it to Tom Stewart on the weekend, rather than play Hinge into the Dogs coming off that Corky. And then of the bench, Carlton plays Freo. If Freo is decimated, because a lot of the people and a lot of the names I've seen go into protocols like Hayden Young, Heath Chapman, it's like smaller defender types. Durden could be a sneaky option here, especially if you could loophole him, like somewhat interesting. So yeah, I guess I'd have the emergency on him over Roses, despite Roses having the better average through a couple of games so far. But yeah, I think this is like probably the base of my team this week, and then I'm most likely sidewaysing one of Stevens or McDonald for Bruce as well, which slightly stuffs up my structure, but I'm gonna have to like continue to boost and fix it over the next coming weeks. Okay, cool. So then Twitter questions. Let's see what's in here. I actually haven't read this list, so I'm not sure what we're gonna get. This is not a question, so that's one down. That's easy. Degoe, good option. Oh yes, Degoe is a good option. Yeah, 480k. Oh, you have 490k for a forward after getting English also. Can't afford Heaney. I'd have to go probably above Heaney if you had the money for both anyway. It sounds bad to say given Heaney's number one forward for SuperCoach at the moment. But yep, I would take DeGoey over Heaney, and I'd definitely take him over Parker. Is there any merit to trading Grundy to Bruce and upgrading Rao to English? So this I don't like as much, and the reason why is it's just a sideways. Like Grundy to English is a sideways of Primos, and then Rao to Bruce is like I guess a little bit of a downgrade. So you are just falling behind on like what I did, for example, which is I got a genuine one up, one down. Yes, I'm holding Grundy. Yes, he's going to leak, but at least I've upgraded and got another Primo on you. So where is it? This way. So yeah, this doesn't have merit unless you're boosting to get another upgrade as going as well. How do I recover from a 20k plus ranking when Scoops is winning team of the round? Oh man, Scoops. Gig it to Scoops. I just thought it was someone taking the PISS with that team name. I didn't realize it was actually him until like some of the stuff came out. How do I look at weekly rankings? But so, I mean, well done to him. 106 overall. Let's see if I can move this. Here we go. So his team is not good, just quietly. I mean, he made $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever it is this year. So props to him. It's better than most will do for the year, that's for sure. But yeah, Marshall as a ruck, don't like. The mids are obviously quite nice here, but like Lipinski and Green's too mid price heavy. The forward line, I mean, like there's no Dunkley. It's yeah, pretty ugly. And I think the biggest problem is that the cash generation isn't particularly great. So Hoff and Owens both out, Skinner out, Long out. That's 4 donuts. So this is the type of team that is going to continue doing well for now. Like there's enough good picks on the field that this is going to continue going all right in the short term. But I think around buy time, this is a team that'll fall off pretty heavily just because of the oversaturation of mid prices that are propping up scores now but aren't keepers, and then the lack of playing rookies. A lot would need to go right for Scoops in terms of having some of these players come back and make some money and contribute, because it's just falling behind on teams that have playing rookies that are actually making cash. But does it have team value? Yeah, that's so like I mean this is team value is basically the same as my team, 11.8. But I've got many more cash makers than he does over the coming weeks, so I should go past him, even though a lot of those mid prices have worked out well early. But yeah, I don't know. I will beat Scoops. Don't worry, it'll happen. I really think I'm boosting Grundy, Horn Francis, and Rail out. Okay, Bruce, Andy Brayshaw, and Lipinski in. I don't like bringing Lipinski in. I don't think that's a good option. What's Lipinski's cost? It's 437k in Scoop's team. So Lipinski's lost all his CBAs over the last 2 weeks. 96 and a 76 over 96 and a 79 over that time. Their fixture's good. We've talked about Collingwood's fixture's good. But yeah, like just not an option that I'd be bringing in. So I think that's a no from mine. I wouldn't do that. Is Priest a must have? I think we covered that pretty well. Leaning towards yes. I'm leaning towards yes. I only think the situation where it wouldn't be yes is if you have Gorn and Grundy or like 2 keeper rucks already, and you think Sam Hayes is going to be as good an option, and you can do good trades without Bruce this week, just by doing roses or whatever, in which case like you can pass. But yeah, is it too late for a Driscoll? I think the answer is yes. So props to Supercoach Gold. Here's the quick way to have a look. So if I go over here, what's it got? So he's got his break even of -69 to 53, and he's got a projected score, I think, of 69 across each of the weeks. So he's currently at 240k, and if he goes basically a 70 average, he caps out at around 350k around buys. So you're looking at plus 110k, which means it's probably unlikely to be worth the trade at this point. I mean, given how crazy things have gone, maybe it's hundreds again and again. But yeah, with Freo potentially being decimated, Carlton and Geelong is kind of 2 harder opponents. I could see the cash potentially stall out with some weaker scores, and I still think there's some concern about job security if he doesn't continue to perform. Although that's mostly gone. He's probably going to hold its spot for a few weeks, I would say. But yeah, unfortunately, I think he's just one that's gone. Yeah, and like unfairly punished for how well that's going. Which rookies are looking at being offloaded first now that DVD can swing everyone just about anywhere, sort of which rookies topped out in price so far? Yeah, so I mean, SuperCoach Gold makes this easy as well to have a look at, but Horn Francis we got rid of, Rao are the two ones. Bowie's also got a high break even. They're probably the three big ones. Rochelle's got a low break even of 6 this week, but is got his 100 rolling out. So he's probably the one that you'd be looking at trading on next week, and potentially Berry as well from the common options. I think some of the trickier ones might be Hayes, who's going to have a low break even, but with Ryder coming back in, that could top out pretty quickly over the next couple of weeks. McCartan's also one that's probably only a bad game away or two away from being someone you could trade out. I think with the amount of rookies we've got making nice cash this year, it's going to be one of those years where trying to hold on to your rookies to extract the last dollar value out of them isn't worthwhile, and just getting off them a week early is going to be what's required in a lot of cases. But yeah. When did kicking another player become okay? I think this is going to be the Cochin incident, which I haven't looked at, but hopefully, like, it shouldn't be okay. It shouldn't be okay. It should be. I always judge it like if Toby Green did it, like would he get weeks? And if the answer is yes, then other players should be getting weeks too. The good guy reputation stuff shouldn't be coming into play. But anyway, what order for target premium mid upgrades in order now to round 10? So Steele, Oliver, Petrarca, Titch, Walsh, Brayshaw, any others? So you have 4 to 5 already. Who's in? Who misses out? Who would you race to upgrade mid full primo? Also, would you race to upgrade mid full primo by round 9? So having a finished midfield sooner rather than later is obviously really useful, just because it's where most of the points come from. But you do want to value that with, like, you do want to balance that with value. The problem with going for someone like Steele now, who's at 640k, is it means that you potentially have 70k less and can't get a good option, or you have to compromise next week. So always going for the best option in terms of like scoring potential isn't necessarily great. You do have to take in cash generation and what trades it enables next week. So the ones that I want the most from that list are probably Steele, Oliver, Walsh, and Brayshaw. I probably like Petrarca and Titch are probably towards the back end, but Petrarca and Titch are the two cheapest ones, and Petrarca is seriously underpriced at 575k. Titch is a little bit harder just to know because of role. So yeah, I think Steele is one that you just have to wait on for now, and either he comes down in price or you get him after his buy. He has the first buy, so he's one that you can wait for. Just and trade him as your last mid at that point. So yep, and then so I think like Petrarca this week, Oliver next week are probably like the two priority ones, just because of the value that you get, and then you can kind of wait and see what happens with the others that you've got on that list. But I wouldn't talk anyone out of getting Walsh, Brayshaw, or Steele this week, and then Titch would be probably last. Who to go with between Steele, Brayshaw, Petrarca, other? Yeah, I think I've answered this already. So yeah, that's probably Petrarca. I'd have top of the list for me. Sinclair or Hewitt? It'd still be Hewitt for mine. Bowie and Rowell out. Yep, I think so. And if so, I bring in Truck, Oliver, Brayshaw. Can't afford McRae, aka the biggest mistake I made in the preseason. Ouch. Yeah, I mean, I think Petrarca this week, Oliver next would be the 1-2 I'd be looking at in your situation. Luke Parker, good option? No, I don't think so. I don't think he's going to be a top 6 forward either. I mean, there's just so many good options here. Like English, Dunkley, Butters, and then you've got who else were we talking about? Like, Degoe. You still got Heaney, who should be around the mark depending on what happens, and then some of the other ones we were looking at in the preseason. So Duncan, who could potentially get cheap and come back. You've got Taranto, who looks like he'll be right up there as well. So, yeah, I just can't see Parker doing it with the worst role. Just can't see happening. I mean, I think he probably goes about a 100 average, but realistically, you need him to go like 105. I think this year it looks like that's probably going to be the mark that you want as your as your sixth best forward. I just don't think he's going to get there. All right, where are we at? Questions. Raul is not a question. Would you give Ridley the boot? So I think at this point in the season, you need to be upgrading each week. And so I wouldn't be mucking around with sideways trades. People doing that is how you catch up, because they sideways, you upgrade, you have an extra premium on the field. Yes, your premium might be Ridley, who's underperforming and giving you like 80s and 90s, but it's still better than the rookie that they have on field. And then you just hold Ridley. If you've got luxury trades at the end or during the buys, that's when you move him on. Now I think you just probably hold and hope that Essendon kind of rebounds, and that helps Ridley scoring. But yeah. And then preferred upgrade options this week, Petrarca, Heaney, or English. So I'd have English 1, Petrarca 2, Heaney 3, but I'm very close between English and Petrarca at the moment. Go on a must-have. I think you will want to upgrade to him at some point. Can upgrade to McRae or him or both if I trade Jackson, Took, and Rao. Wait, what? I'm so confused by these trades. Can upgrade to McRae or him or both. So McRae and Gone in for Jackson, Took, and Rao. It's like not a good trade. Don't trade Took. Gone you can wait on just because of the ruck situation we've talked about. I'd get McRae in. What's he even priced at? 681. It's just that there's not much value. But I mean, Dog's fixture is so good that not having him is going to hurt you. So I can see why you'd want to do it. But yeah, I wouldn't be trading Took. He'll come good. Would you prefer to give Rochelle or Horn-Francis the boot to bring Petrarca, or Brayshaw still so Horn-Francis, just because I think Rochelle is going to make more money this week, and then you're probably getting rid of Rochelle next. This is true. This comment is true in like normal years, but I don't think that's going to be the case this year. We've got enough other rookies that are generating cash that this probably isn't going to be an issue. Like, I don't have Brody who's going to make 250k. I don't have a Driscoll who's going to make 200k, and I still think I'm going to be fine on cash generation. So if I'm missing like 400 to 500k that some other people have, and I think I'm going to be all right, then yeah, I think trading out Horn-Francis and Rochelle like 50k early is not going to be an issue. Is it worth getting Bruce over an upgrade, leaving 340k in the bank next week? Ooh, and then double up next week. This is like a little bit hard to know, just because it comes down to how many points on, like, do you think you're losing on your field this week? Because if getting Bruce on for whatever reason means that you're not losing that many points, then it's fine. If you're losing a bunch of points, then like, yeah, I don't love it. Having that much money in the bank for multiple weeks, generally not good, but if it enables some good trades next week and you don't think you're losing that many points this week, then yeah, it's okay. Captain options this week are interesting. I don't think they are, especially with people starting to upgrade now. Trade hold Grundy. Yep. Okay, we've got to cover both those. Smith, Brayshaw, or Keys? It wouldn't be Keys. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Bailey Smith and Brayshaw. If you think Bailey Smith is a keeper, then go for him now at 520k. If you don't, then Brayshaw's the easiest pick of those. Who's the best defender bringing for Hall? Oh, I haven't even mentioned Hall. I forgot about him as an option. Yeah, some people are in tricky situations because he's got to go this week. So, I mean, this is where the trade boost comes in, because the beauty of the trade boost is you can do one sideways and still get one up, one down in, and that's what I'd be trying to do. In terms of like sideways for Hall, I still like Stewart as an option. Otherwise, yeah, like Doherty's been good. Probably would still avoid Sinclair. Sicily's the cheap option we talked about. Dawson, I probably wouldn't go for over someone like Stewart, even though like I'm enjoying owning him for at least one quarter a week. So yeah, like Stewart is still moving my top primo, probably followed by Doherty, and then yeah, Sicily would be the cheap option. Is trading in Tom Green and Jackson Sinclair the right options? No, I don't think so. I'm not a big enough believer in either of them. if it was like someone that I loved and then one of the other ones, like say it was, I don't know, Stewart and Tom Green, it'd be fine. Or if it was like, yeah, but they're both speculative, and so I probably just wouldn't do that. Should I trade in Horn, Francis, or Cherry, or which one should I trade to upgrade Rail? So I've got Horn, Francis. I wouldn't be trading Cherry. Hold on Cherry. Should I keep Skinner? I mean, sidewaysing 123k rooks at the moment is probably not a good play, to be honest. So I think you just have to keep and persist. If Bruce will be at R3, do you pay up for him, even if he's splitting with Flynn, or do you wait a week and go Hayes? Feel many coaches will be putting the scenario. Yeah. Which I think we've covered. Like, I'm going to try and get both because I think that's how I'm going to make the cash gen for those that I've missed. If you're going just one, I don't know. I'm like, there's something that worries me about Hayes, even though there's no reason why he shouldn't have 3 months of good job security. And Bruce has got 200s in his score, which we've seen. If I had to go just one, I think it would be Bruce. But I can see arguments for both sides, especially given that Hayes is just 80k cheaper straight out the gate. Yeah, and it depends on who you've got in your rucks. So like, say you've got English in your rucks, you can get Bruce this week and then like move him out and get Hayes as well. If Hayes ends up being a good option, or if he's not, then you just hold English there. If it's gone in Grundy, then like I think it's a little bit trickier because you're never playing Bruce over either one of them. And so it just becomes like a bit of cover. But I don't know. Yeah, I still think I'd go Bruce. I think just lock him in this week if he's named. Yes, Nod has sailed. Trades we've covered of mine. What's my favorite cuisine? I don't know. Cuisine. That's like. I'll come back to that one. How early to cull rooks such as? Oh yeah, I mean Horn Francis can go this week. I think the others can wait. Can you do a video of rankings each line? I might do that next week. We'll see how we go. Yeah, I'm not sure. And then cuisine, I don't know. Let's go Italian. I don't know. Can't go wrong. I like so many cuisines. There's nothing I really don't eat. So yeah, everything. All right. Well, that's the video this week. It's actually ended up being much longer than what I thought it was going to be. But I guess given we're starting to upgrade and the Grundy stuff this week does make it a little bit more interesting, and boosts obviously open up options. But hopefully you found this useful. Let me know your trades, what you're weighing up, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.